Welcome to the Untangling Web3 podcast, your go-to hub to learn insights and the latest developments in the wild and wonderful world of Web3. I'm Alec Burns.
And I'm Jack Davis. Tune in each week as we navigate and explore the rapidly emerging landscape of the Web3 technologies, projects, and ideas that are shaping the future of the internet.
We'll be talking to the best and brightest in the industry to keep uncovering insights,
so that hopefully we can all learn together on our journey to untangle Web3.
Welcome to another episode of the Untangling Web3 podcast. Today, I'm very excited to introduce to the show Rafaela Azevedo. Rafaela is a technology veteran with more than 16 years of experience in quality assurance and test automation. Recently, she founded the Chain Academy with the goal of educating and expanding the Web3 community. Rafaela is also a STEM ambassador, instructor to the Test Automation University, and known for her tech blog. Welcome to the show, Rafaela.
Hello, thanks for inviting me. I'm really honored, I cannot wait for our talk. It's really great to be here. And after we met during the London blockchain conference, and let's start.
That was the first time we met a couple of weeks ago, and we had a good conversation. It was very interesting, quite exciting. It's just interesting to meet more and more people that are kind of moving into the Web3 space or have been in the Web3 space. And I think some of the things that you were talking about particularly were extremely interesting.
Yeah, it's especially because, I can see that when I started, there are not too many people talking about. And also, even for me, it was quite hard to understand what was Web3 in the beginning. And I had to go through a lot of different videos and talks and articles as well, because everybody explains in a different way. So you need to find the way that you kind of clearly understand, especially when you are in the beginning. So yeah, I know.
It's really hard, isn't it? I mean, even when we started this podcast, just trying to get to an understanding of what Web3 actually means ourselves was really difficult, and it means a different thing to different people. Everyone you ask has a different answer. So yeah, that's partly why we want to get as many perspectives on it as possible. So yeah, thanks for joining us today. Maybe let's start with kind of your background, and maybe if you can just tell us a little bit about your journey to Web3. What were you doing before Web3? Because it's only been around for a few years, really. So what's your professional background?
Yeah, so if I really go through the beginning, I start coding when I was 6 because my parents, they work in tech already. So I was really lucky. Yeah, I was kind of lucky because my dad, he started, push me to try to learn coding. And then after I start to give some classes on English and tech as well, just for kids, 6 years old kids. And then when I was 14, I started to do some web development. So this was a long time ago with Dreamweaver and front page. And it was really, really basic things. And I was just basically copying and pasting JavaScript, which I didn't know. And trying to edit as well, because I was trying to see how things work. And then I was starting to sell some websites for schools that my mom was working. And after this, I got an internship in QA. Was not the area that I really wanted, tests and QA. And also I was getting kind of a help desk job. It was both at the same time. And then I started to do QA, and I really like the thinking, the critical thinking that you need to have. And even though I thought I was gonna follow the web development part, I kind of just stayed in QA and learned automation, and then now I am trying Web3. Just because, I was really interested after my brother told me many times to go and see what was the future. And then I pushed myself to learn outside of my job, basically. But yeah, as you said, it's so new that it took me a while to get there and learn. And also I was really motivated because I saw that not many people were talking about, Web3 and blockchain, but in the tests and the QA area that I work already. So this was even more motivation to try to, share knowledge and get knowledge as well as much as possible. So
that is, I think the thing that stuck with me the most there was that you started coding at 6 years old. I have no idea what Jack was doing at 6, but I don't even think I could read or speak at 6. That's incredible.
You're putting us all to shame. Although it is nice. You must be the only person I've ever met outside of my school who's also used Dreamweaver, which is, how I thought all websites were built. But, I've never found people who used it. It was just kind of this one program. So that's quite fun that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I know, and everybody keeps saying, "Oh, but you are so young." But yeah, I was just lucky because of my parents, and Dreamweaver, Flash, all these things that we don't use anymore. And to be honest, I was the JavaScript part. I was more copying and pasting because I didn't know how to start the code, but HTML and CSS, I was a bit more like aware of what I was doing, basically. But yeah.
So you mentioned QA, and I think maybe some of our listeners won't be familiar with what that role is, and we'll probably go into it in a bit more detail. I say it's quality assurance, but it might be worth just really quickly introing what a QA is and what it does, and we will come into it a bit later and go into more detail on what that entails. But it might just be worth just explaining it now briefly.
Yeah, sure. Well, QA, quality assurance, as you said, is a more role that you test the quality of the product in a role, in a whole. But I know that in the beginning was more just exploratory tests and people doing manual tests, just reviewing the features. But nowadays it's so big and extensive that you can find QAs that do extensive tests on the performance of the websites, the apps, and this goes to any platform as well as development, the developer. And even like in the business QA, they have an input nowadays. They go and check if we missed something in the beginning of the business rules and the features and all these things. So nowadays QA is basically the testing on the product as a whole. So all the stages, and this is what we are moving now, basically.
It's quite exciting. It seems like it's giving you like a really kind of thorough understanding of like the entire product lifestyle, like not just the testing and kind of how users would interact with the product, but also like some of the technical aspects as well. That's like super useful and kind of very relevant to the kind of Web3 apps that we're kind of going to try and focus on during this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm kind of interested to get to the question there. What actually sparked your interest? What made you go from what you were doing before to go jumping headfirst into Web3?
Yeah, so now I'm working for HMRC, right? So I'm working on observability project, and basically I felt I have this it's a bit of my personality as well. I like to learn things every time that I'm in a different project or even outside. And in this project, I was not learning as much as I wanted. So my brother told me about Web3, and then I thought, okay, this is not. I didn't really understand in the beginning.
When was this? Was this a long time ago?
Maybe 2-3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
It's still recent, to be honest. And then I start to just go for it and really study about it. And when I understood that, that was about the decentralization, what really motivated even more was because I caught caught in like 2 or 3 different scans, and even though I thought, oh my God, that was so dumb, because, I work in tech, and I felt like, oh my God, that was unbelievable. Everybody, I felt ashamed. Yeah. And then in the end, I thought, you know what, this is gonna end with Web3. So definitely, I want my data. I want privacy. So this was something that I start to be more careful about. And yeah, this really gave me like a big push, basically.
Yeah, sure. And that's what led you to kind of working in Web3. So what are you working on at the minute? What's the and what have you worked on in the past? Because I know you, as Alec mentioned, you founded the Chain Academy, but is that your kind of only Web3 project, or have you got anything else on the go?
I have some other talks and blog articles with tutorials that I went and I learned and start to share with the Web3 community. And there is another project that I started not too long ago as well, and this is gonna take some time. That is a Web3 community just for tests and QAs. Exactly because it's quite. I had so many conversations about this, and most of the developers and the QAs that I talked with, they were complaining that it's a bit of a Wild West. Everybody does a lot of things without a proper standard to follow, and yeah, that made me create this other project that was the Web3 test community, and just spread the knowledge through my blog. So I do talks and meetups, just focus on that area now.
Yeah, that's that's extremely exciting. I think Web3, the importance of education within Web3 is paramount right now. I mean, it's one of the reasons why me and Jack decided to set up this podcast. I mean, it was mainly for education of ourselves and each other, but maybe to an extent education of the listeners we have right now, because it's so ambiguous. It's constantly changing. It's not fully defined. That the education is so important, and in the education itself, like even if you're giving the education, you also learn there's a discovery in actually kind of giving the education as well. But that's super exciting that you're kind of thinking about how to build these Web3 apps as well. You kind of worked in the Web2 space, you had this kind of intro to Web3, and now you're starting to move into the Web3 space as well. And I think we're particularly excited to talk about Web3 apps, and I think it's difficult to sometimes kind of relate the importance and the benefits to the users of Web3 apps. It'd be interesting just to understand how you think the kind of the Web3 app space is going right now, and any kind of insights you have for that.
Yeah, well, I think with AI that came now, and everybody's talking about AI. So I think Web3 is going to have a big push because, we need to, with social engineering that, was always there. And with AI, it's just going to, be even more out there, and people are going to use AI for, fake everything basically. So yeah, Web3, I can see that this is gonna be really beneficial because people are gonna really understand why Web3 is there, and all these fake data, fake people, you can basically check who is actually you are talking to and authenticate these. So yeah, I think the AI is actually a really beneficial thing for Web3 industry now.
Yeah, it's really interesting you mentioned AI, right? Because I think everyone in the world was thinking out Web3, and then about 4 or 5 months ago, all the heads were turned very quickly to AI,
ChatGPT.
and now that's with ChatGPT, and that kind of changed the whole conversation. But to me, definitely there's a big overlap between blockchain and AI. I think they can complement each other. I was interested, do you have any opinions on that? Do you think they will complement, and in what specific ways? Because again, lots of people say, oh, they're a match made in heaven, but don't really explain what they mean by that. But do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so basically, there are so many scans, as I said before, like, you don't know whom you are talking to. So Web3 can authenticate this, and you can be sure that who you are talking to before you make a payment or anything like that. And AI is just gonna be an they call infocalypse, just because so every data from everywhere, and you don't know if you can trust, or who it can be a bot on the other side. You just don't know. And so basically Web3 can just fix this problem. And also because you own the data, it's not gonna be AI. You can see that it's gonna be AI basically. Know who is gonna own the data. So
I mean, I definitely, the way I see what happened with ChatGPT as well, you see everyone likes what's happened. Well, most people, I'd say this is a great innovation, but it's been trained on all our data that we gave up. So it's kind of a massive heist of our personal data, right? So it's good
exactly.
and bad in that sense.
Yeah, and this was another thing. I was checking ChatGPT, and then I thought, Jesus Christ, they have all these database with data from basically us, and we are giving for free, basically. And I saw Amazon, they were really concerned already. They said, please don't post your code or anything on ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is reusing that to other people that are using. So people, I think the problem is, I think this happens to majority, and it happened to me as well. I didn't give, I was not really concerned with my data up until I got this scan. And also, you see that you are providing this data, these big companies, they are using. Amazon has, and also, with all the data breaches they have, and they own your data, they just share with whoever you don't know. And then God knows where people have your address, your name, your email, everything, and you don't know that. And once you realize how this is important, I think you kind of understand Web3 in the concept and what it's trying to fix.
I think I really like that, Rafaela. That's like, I mean, you've kind of brought up so many topics that me and Jack have explained in previous episodes about the importance of data ownership, and most people not understanding why you'd want to own your own data and what that actually means. But kind of scams like the one that you're referencing are ways in which that becomes important. And I think, you talked about ChatGPT and some of the issues that we're starting to see in Web2 apps right now. Is that, we talked previously about bots and how they're on Twitter and how you have trolls, and it's very easy to spin up a bot and they can cause mayhem in these kind of centralized social media systems, but also in like emails and spams and all this kind of stuff. And with, the rise of generative AI, we're seeing that this is becoming more of an issue. It's even more difficult to work out, if someone is real, if someone is authentic, if they actually have a real world identity, or if they're a bot trying to get something out of you. And I think, you emphasized, I really like this point, something that I strongly agree with, is that in kind of a future model where AI is prevalent and AI is everywhere, we're going to need systems based on maybe Web3 to prove identity, to prove authenticity, and to prove that the thing that you're talking to on the other side of the interface is actually a human that you can exchange with and has an identity, that if something goes wrong, there's some accountability there. And there's a lot of reasons why Web3 is needed when we think about the world of kind of generative AI playing havoc potentially in kind of how we interact.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about this book I'm reading now. It's The Art of Deception, and it's about social engineering, and it's really good. It gives you all the points of why you need to worry about not only your data but security in general. And they are getting really, really good. And once I'm gonna be realistic. Once you get on, and depends on your mood of the day, depends how many things you need to deal with. Sometimes you receive the email, you don't check every little thing to see if that is true or not, and then just go for it. And this is how basically I felt for this kind, because it was a really genuine copy of Royal Mail, and I was unlucky because I was waiting for a parcel from a friend in Australia, and then I thought, oh, maybe there was a problem, and then I just went for it and I checked just the basics, and I thought, oh, yeah. So, and of course, when I got old, I can imagine myself doing this even more. So yeah, it's a concern.
It's
definitely.
hard. It's hard to keep up. It really is. Like, I mean, I work on the other side of the scale now, where I'll just report anything for phishing. Like, so the company I work for, they have like, you know, regular phishing tests. So any email, even if it's from Jack or like someone else that I know, I'll just report it for phishing, just so I don't have to do any more security training.
Well, that is because I've got him before, so you know he's got to be wary of my emails, unfortunately.
Oh, you have it. Oh, okay, yeah. So see, yeah. These things they can happen, and online is even more easy to do these kind of things. Through phone, I think it's a bit harder, but yeah. So that's why I advocate for Web3 like now even more than before, basically.
Yeah, I think so. You're kind of touching on a lot of the cybersecurity issues that we have, you know, in the Web2 world and the Web3 world. You know, arguably scams are getting even worse now. We have these tokens because there's another thing to scam people for, right? But yeah, I think there's a whole other, like, I think because obviously your background in QA. When I think of QA and Web3, my mind immediately goes to smart contracts, and I presume that's kind of the biggest area, right? So maybe you could tell us a bit about what is QA in the context of developing Web3 apps, and why is it important?
So yeah, basically you need to be aware, of all this is the problem, because QA, we need to think about the functionality, but also performance and especially security. But many companies, they hire like a security specialists, because QA is a bit more generalist. So we can do like, the tests, but it's always good to have somebody from outside as well trying to hack your product. But how I see is basically we need to test, all the transactions with the between the wallet and the blockchain, and also the gas fee, all the business logic that is behind. And also the security part, like double spending and this kind of thing. So it's gonna be basically really complex, and I was even trying to chat with Ryan Lewis. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with her. I think I've read one of her books. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then she has 2 books. So I talked to her. She helped me with one of the posts on my blog. But she's really good about QA and blockchain, and she was the only one that I thought, you are posting things about QA, and not too many people are doing that. So I contacted her, but it is basically hard because you need to focus on all these things that you used to test on Web2 anyway, but now you just need to have this extra knowledge to test on blockchain as well, and Web3.
Yeah. I think that you're highlighting a really important point here, that I think maybe despite all the benefits of Web3 in tackling some of the issues we have in Web2, there is also seems to be a lot more complexity, because you have, even though the smart contracts are transparent, that opens them up to more exploits. And then you have the network side, the protocol side, how the blockchains themselves work. So there's all these different dimensions that must make QA a lot harder, I imagine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you need to check the protocols. Yeah, exactly. All the deployment of the contracts, and it is huge and extensive. I think there is a roadmap even that I got that is showing all the things that you need to check, and this is just the blockchain part. It's not even the normal things that you use to test on Web2 as well. So that's why what I see that companies are doing right now is basically just hire developers and the QAs that they know about Web2. They already know this part. and then they are training them to go and understand about Web3, how to test, and the blockchain as well. So because it's really hard to find people with the knowledge already, and also as you said, things are moving so fast that it's hard to keep up. So you need to also find somebody that is able and eager to keep learning, basically. So.
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about it that the Web3 model is all about like user empowerment, and there's like utility that comes from that. But sometimes at the flip side of that is that it means it's less convenient for the user. If a lot of responsibility is pushed to the user, it means that the user has to do more, which might make the user experience worse, which is maybe something that you alluded to there. I think are there other challenges that you see with like Web3 application adoption? Like we're seeing a lot of Web3 apps like firing left, right, and center, but they're not really getting the market share that we're kind of that exists right now with Web 2 applications.
Yeah, well, I think it is hard because people don't understand about Web3 yet, and then because they have this obstacle to connect the wallet and do the transaction and everything. So if they don't know what they are doing and they just see that is an obstacle as well. There is one thing that I forgot to mention though, because I kept saying about scans and everything, but also there is the part of, I don't know if you heard about, well, we probably know about this book, is the George Orwell 1984. And where the government is checking, is like a surveillance, and is checking all everything that you do. So this is another actually concern that I completely forgot to say, because this is another thing that is really important as well to mention. We are giving our data for free, and the government, they are able to, not only government, but also, well, in the book it was the government, but all these big companies, they have our data, and they are sharing and just selling the data to everybody, and basically we don't know where it's going, and they can even manipulate on social media, like what we think, and basically they do that already, right? So they just share the propaganda or any comment, and they study about the psychology, and try to just lead us to something, and they play a lot with this part of emotions that if they see that you are against something, they go and post keep you just seeing things completely opposite, so it motivates you to be more angry about it, and then you start to get polarized. It's just a mess. It's a lot of things actually that Web3 try to help with, like try to fix. And I completely forgot about that, sorry.
No, it's a great point. I think we talked about it in one of our episodes on micropayments, where we talked about right now in kind of social media. You say if you don't pay for the product, then you are the product, and they make money out of your data. You don't know where that data is being used, and we kind of imagine a Web3 future in which you own the data, and you can even monetize the data and choose who you sell that data to. And you are right. Like some of that data might be misappropriately used, sometimes appropriately used, but we don't know. That's the point. I mean, it's not that you're going to have like control of your data from like the police and the government. It's that where it's going, and there's transparency into where it goes, because some data has to be shared with the government, always will be, but it's the point that when that data is being shared. And I think that's one of the main benefits that we get from data ownership in a Web3 model.
Yeah, totally.
So we've talked a lot so far already about some of the challenges facing the Web3 space and the opportunities, right? And they kind of come, I always find I'm talking about both at the same time. Like you talk about challenge that it's solving, and then there's another one that it brings up. I wonder, do you kind of have any thoughts on, because I remember reading 2022 was something like the biggest year on record for hacks of the actual smart contracts themselves, right? I think it was something like 3 billion was lost last year in these protocols. And that seems to me like it's a barrier to adoption, because people are, not trusting completely these smart contracts just yet. And I can see definitely how QA is going to be a big part of getting public trust in these things, having properly security audited protocols before anyone's going to trust them with their actual hard-earned money.
Yeah, that is really hard. To be honest, it's just increasing the number of hacks. I think, in Facebook, they had a big data breach in 2018, and then Google on the day after, and this was not even using Web3. So it is hard because the hacks, and I was checking the numbers is crazy. Like not only in Web3, but like every 20 seconds there is a hacker trying to invade the product in your platform. So Web3 is not the thing is, it's just another channel they can do. It's not like they are not doing already in Web2 or any other platform or industry. But the thing is, it's hard to get trust, especially because people need to be educated not only about what is Web3, but also about sometimes these things are going to happen because it happened like anyway in all these paths of internet. So we just need to keep fighting and finding the problems and trying to learn every time more. But the problem is, as with the speed of the things that are developed as well, things are changing all the time. So it is really hard and complex to keep up and find the best way. I think the best way to just make people to trust more is also showing that you see these things happening sometimes, but also it's your own data. So you are the one that is gonna make sure that you have this in a secure place. It's not gonna be like Amazon that has your data. But if you leave your money in the wallet, for example, it might happen. So you need to take care of your own data, basically. So the trust is going to be more about you owning your thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about trust on this podcast because the kind of the way in which you trust is going to change. Like you'll always have to trust something, and I think like a lot of people when they talk about Web3 versus Web2, the trust is kind of shifting from trust in a big organization like a Facebook or an Amazon or something like that to a trust in the technology. You say that if me and Jack are interacting then through Facebook, I trust that Facebook will get that message there. I trust that any deals we have, Facebook will kind of reinforce that and make sure that happens. There's a trust in the entity. But in a Web3 model, to put it simply, me and Jack can kind of interact in a peer-to-peer basis using a transparent smart contract that we both agree to. And then we're trusting in the technology. We're trusting in the transparency of the smart contract. But the issue is there that you've kind of talked about is that it's difficult. If I'm not technologically savvy, how can I know that this smart contract that Jack has designed for us to interact actually does what it says it does? I need to have quite a deep technical understanding. And I think the point that you made there is that we're going to need to kind of have function for people to kind of, go into this and actually say, okay, is this smart contract what it says? Like you don't need to be technologically adept to actually understand how these smart contracts work. And I think to really get the benefit of Web3, we're going to have to make this more, tangible and easily digestible to gain this benefit that the trust in the technology is actually very human readable.
So yeah, that was a really good intro, I think, to the role of quality assurance or QA in the Web3 world, and a little bit of how it works in the Web2 world as well, and all the problems that need solving with Web3 and QA. I mean, maybe let's talk a little bit more about adoption, because we touched on it already and some of the challenges. And I know that, with the Chain Academy, to me, that seems like exactly the kind of thing that can help bridge this educational gap. So maybe, tell us a little bit more about the Chain Academy and what you're doing there.
Yeah, sure. So Chain Academy is basically a community and a marketplace for developers that want to share the knowledge in Web3 and also want to learn about Web3. Because as I said, one of the problems is the lack of standards. Everybody says that it's a Wild West, and everybody does, because you are working a different blockchain as well. So it might be different from, the protocols and everything. So it is a lot to take, and everybody's working their own bubble. So we have these communities already, like, on Discord or Telegram, but it's not like there is not a central point. And also sometimes you have just, I'm just working with this, so I don't want to see what the others are doing, or you're not going to learn from the other blockchain. I think, to be honest, with developers, this is hard because we are always learning. It's part of our job. But yeah, the Chain Academy is exactly this exchange of knowledge between the Web3 developers. And also with the more people that want to learn about Web3, they are going to learn from the seniors and from the people that are already working, and they will have all this collaboration between them and check what others are doing. So yeah, it's just a chain of knowledge, basically.
I really like that. I think it's really interesting. I think it's important as well that you are targeting developers. Like, when most people talk about adoption, they think about consumers, and they're always trying to explain Web3 to consumers. And me and Jack have I think have come to the shared opinion that, you don't need to explain what Web3 is to a consumer. They don't care that it's a Web3 app most of the time. They care about the benefits. They care about, utility and convenience. But that's why I think it's so important, because you do need to explain like the deep tech to a developer about what is Web3. So you said that it's hard to teach developers about this. I mean, it's obviously a very new and ambiguous field that's constantly evolving. What are some of the challenges that you faced in kind of trying to teach developers about Web3?
So basically, I can see that people, they got really confused about, what is Web3, what blockchain is, what NFT is. This is, I think, even outside of, the tech, the tech community, I think people, they got really confused about what is what. And this is one of the challenges, but also scalability. People are concerned with, but we are using much more energy when we are coding, blockchain and these kind of things, and also security. So these are the challenges. One of the challenges that I can see that is in the industry right now, and also lack of the Web3 developers. We have a lot in the industry, but it's still quite low compared to the demand. I checked the numbers not too long ago, and it was like the Web3 industry was growing up 517% per year in the last year. Yeah, it was quite a lot, and the demand for Web3 developers were not following. I don't know right now if AI might have changed it, but yeah, it's crazy because people were desperate for developers, and what they were basically doing, was just trying to teach the Web2 developers or Web2 QAs to code and learn about blockchain. But this takes a while. So if you have this kind of collaboration and you are sharing and getting as much knowledge as you can from all these other people, then you might speed up the process.
Yeah, that's a super interesting point, right? Because there's definitely a lack of developers who are fully versed in Web3. There's probably a spectrum, as you say. If you take a Web2 developer, they have to learn so much to become a good Web3 developer or QA developer in Web3. And I'm really glad to hear that you've got lots on the platform. I noticed as well, it says it's a kind of pair programming approach. So is that kind of you matching people up to work together and learn, or?
Yeah. So this is one of the features. Basically, we are going to match people and they are going to do pair programming, because I really believe that, even though you do some things is fast to get from like text to chat or like forums, but also to improve your communication skills. And I think is also like helping with the soft skills. So this is one of the things that we are planning to implement in the products as well, pair programming, live sessions. So
I love that.
Yeah, I know that so many people, they are kind of against, because they think that it slows down the productivity, but it depends on what basically you want. Because now with, for example, ChatGPT, that people are using quite a lot, you just copy and paste and you don't get a proper explanation. And pair programming, it would help exactly like, oh, you need to do that because of this. So you would have like a proper explanation, not just copy and paste. But this is when you have the time and you want to go deeper to know what you are doing, basically.
I love the idea, because it seems like the Web3 approach to doing education, right? It's like very peer-to-peer. You're matching people up directly and having them do this knowledge transfer, peer-to-peer. I wonder if you've thought about integrating any other aspects of Web3 into that in the future, like the incentive model. How do you incentivize better QA engineers to help, that kind of thing? I'm sure you have, but I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, sure. So actually, Alec, he helped me with one of the ideas. We are just like planning and doing like a testing with users, prototyping and all these things. But one of the things, apart from trophies that you have on Stack Overflow and badges about you have helped I don't know how many people, because for many developers money is not a big thing, but it's more about like creating your portfolio and showing that you are also helping people. Is like your mission, basically. But also one of the things that Alec helped with is implementing like micropayments every minute, or for every interaction in the platform, so people can also receive money for their interaction and the content and the knowledge they are sharing.
That's super cool. Alec, the ideas man, as always on the show.
I asked Rafaela to name drop me on our own podcast. So
it must be a different. No. It must be a different Alec, right?
No, yeah, definitely not this one. Yeah.
No, we came up with those ideas collaboratively. So it was interesting because me and Jack actually just recorded the micropayments like a week before. So all these were just like in my head, and we talk about a lot of use cases in there. But yeah, it makes so much sense. Like you were talking about online tutoring, and we were talking about high barriers to entry, and how people don't want to pay £80 up front for an hour session when they don't know the quality that they're going to get. Where it's far easier and low risk for them if they just pay £1 a minute or a penny per second and all this kind of stuff. So, and there's not many like applications that use that, and that's a really good like kind of use case for Web3. And you came up with loads of ideas about upvoting and like the equivalent of Reddit and things like that for the best like comments. There's so many applications for micropayments in a kind of application like that. It's super exciting to know that you're thinking about that.
Yeah, thanks to you as well. But yeah, I think it's one of the things that we can definitely implement, and it's gonna reduce the obstacles for people that want to try, want to learn, and see how it goes.
Yeah, so I guess it'd be interesting to know about some of the other barriers that you have that aren't education related. Do you see that there's I guess like any kind of technical barriers, social barriers, or anything like that you're finding in these kind of knowledge sharing exercises that you're doing?
Yeah, so I can see in the technical part, apart from scalability that I said before, also like infrastructure that is different. So because now you don't have a server anymore, you're connecting to the blockchain, so you need to, and also after you deploy things to the blockchain, you cannot revert. So all these things, they need to you need to think up front. So this is another thing that I can see that people are concerned about, like, oh my god, if I deploy something, then what is going to happen? I cannot revert, and it's forever there in the blockchain. So people are concerned about this, and also extensive tests that you need to do before, like in the local blockchain, with Ganache, that is a local blockchain you can use, and you can do your tests there and deploy your contracts. So all these things you need to think upfront, and this is one of the technical barriers as well. The infrastructure is quite different.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up the immutability aspect, because I've seen kind of two sects of people in the space right now. One that is like, scared about it. You put things on chain and it's there forever. I mean, it doesn't have to be the raw data always, but it's still there forever no matter what you say. But there's another sect that I've seen who are very pro this. So have you seen that recently? Twitter had this free API that was, people were building like multi-million-pound companies on, and they revoked access to that. So they basically killed the free API. And there's been this sect of people is basically pushing for the idea of like an immutable infrastructure layer that is there forever, and people can, like, it's like open source but permanent forever, and people can build in it forever. So you have these kind of these back ends potentially that are on the blockchain, and then you have like a multitude of front ends that are all built on top of these open source kind of open code blockchain based repositories, and you have competition to build on these back ends where everything is composable, everything is interoperable, not just for the data but also for the infrastructure. So I agree that it's scary that it's there forever, but it's also there's some benefits that could be derived from that, and it's interesting to see that people are starting to think about this.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think it's just about being a bit more careful and doing more tests before. But yeah, you can always deploy again on top of this, fixing the problem.
Yeah, I was going to say this. I think you touched on it very briefly there with the local blockchain aspect, the Ganache, like a testing framework. And I think that's something that maybe we haven't discussed on the podcast before, is the fact that in Web3, a lot of the testing is actually done kind of in public on these what's called test nets, right? And I presume that must be a great thing for QA, because you have, these tests. Maybe you could explain a bit about what test nets are and how you use them. But I think my understanding is that they're a kind of safe but public environment to test, whereas in Web2, you just do all your testing internally, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So test nets is just a test network that you can safely deploy and do your tests there. It's pretty self-explanatory, but yeah, it's basically that. And but also, because when you are doing your tests, you have all the stages that you can do before you actually deploy to the real blockchain. So you do local tests first, and then you do the test net after, and then after you go and deploy your contract to the real blockchain. But it's something that people are concerned, but because you have all these stages, you can try to pick up as early as possible. And this is why also QA is needs to be part of the process since before, not only for the development, but I always try to advocate QAs and testers to go and participate on like the business logic as well, just to try to start to, because one thing that people I think people they still have this bias that QAs, they are going to pick up all the bugs, and all the responsibilities on them, and they, even if they arrive in the last minute, they should like pick up all the things. But it doesn't work like that, because we are humans in the end of the day, so we need to you need to have some kind of background base to start to think about everything, and then we can start to think about the problems, and then this starts a bit before the actual development. And once you got the development, then you have all this knowledge in your head, and then you can actually apply all the things that you thought. And sometimes you are still gonna pick up in the middle of the way, which is it happens, it's completely normal. But that's why I think QAs are they need to start early on, so they can help with all the big picture basically of the problem.
Yeah, that's super insightful. Thanks for that. I'm really conscious of your time, because you have so many hats on, but I have to ask before we go today, because you brought up the fact that you work for HMRC. So you kind of have a unique background in that you worked in kind of the public sector in the UK, and also now in the Web3 space. So on that note, what do you think of the role of regulation? Like, is that a hindrance to adoption? Is that something that needs to happen sooner? I'm interested to hear your thoughts as someone who's seen both sides of the industry.
Yeah, I think jurisdiction. We should. It's hard because it's a global scale. So every country and they need to apply their own rules. But as soon as we start adopting, and as soon as we start to have these kind of regulations on top, we can have more trust, and then we can actually start to adopt Web3 in bigger scale, definitely, because this is a challenge that is in any country basically right now. But it is hard to find what is the middle ground, because it's global, so every country will have their own rules basically. But and also with the anti-laundering scheme, they this is a big thing as well. It's why people are so concerned about adopting Web3. Media spreads a lot of things about the money that is gone, and is people are stealing, and all these things, they don't help. So as soon as we have the regulations on top of this, then of course, but it is a bit realistic, isn't it? Because we had money laundering before even. So it's nothing, it's nothing new, same as security, nothing new. It's just something that we need to worry about, as we should have done before as well. But definitely we
old
need
wine, new bottles.
Yes, exactly. Yes, so there's nothing new, but people they make media makes a big thing of this, and makes they plays with fear of people basically. But this was there already. But as soon as we have this on top, the regulations, then I think people are gonna feel more confident and trust more about using, and we have something to protect ourselves. So
definitely. I think regulation is key to adoption and public trust. So we're coming to the end of our show. I think in this episode we got a brief introduction to you, like your how you kind of became a QA, the fact that you were coding at 6 years old, which still blows my mind. How you came into the Web3 space, your opinions on Web3 applications, and some of the challenges they face, some of the pros they have. We also spoke about your opinions on adoption and education and the importance of those in Web3. And I know that Jack has some questions he wants to ask you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we want to end every episode with a couple of kind of fun questions, right? So nothing too serious. But we also like, as we spoke about at the start, everyone has a different answer to the question about what is Web3. So can you distill for us, as a first question, into just one sentence, what does Web3 mean to you? What is it?
I was gonna think in something more technical, but Web3 is basically the way that we can decentralize everything from this central point. We don't have intermediate anymore between us. Awesome. I think it was more than one sentence, and I got a bit lost in the middle. But you got the idea, right?
Yeah, that's more concise than we normally manage.
Yeah, the first time Jack tried to define it, I think it took him like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we had to cut a lot of it out.
Yeah, I didn't want to oh my God, this is a good question. I never thought about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, to distill it into one line, but that was really good.
No, I was gonna say something more technical, like it's the umbrella as well, so I can share a bit of knowledge for people that get confused about what Web3 is, blockchain, and NFT. But Web3 is like the umbrella of all blockchain, and NFT, metaverse, and all these things.
Nice. I definitely agree with that. I think that's a nice way to kind of give the overview.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, just to finish off the episode, my second question. So if you could choose anybody in the world, so that could be anyone who's currently with us or anyone from history, to sit down with over dinner and just discuss Web3 with them and explain it to them, to get their opinion on it, who do you think that would be?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Nice. That's
No.
the best answer we'll have. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Rafaela, for being a guest on the show. We really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
There's so many new insights for us that we definitely hadn't thought about before. So yeah, with that, we'll say thank you so much. And for everyone listening, thanks for listening to another episode of the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Untangling Web3, produced by Emma Camilleri.
Don't forget to send us your thoughts, questions, and comments on social media, and be sure to follow us on your favourite podcast provider to catch the next episode. See you next time to untangle a little bit more of Web3.
The views we express here are our own and do not reflect the views of our employers.